We were putting them in Civic Cup cars and they were exploding so much so that they were smashing through the bell housings and coming out of the side of cars, and it was horrific. They all went in the skip, didn't they?
Mm. This is where I enjoyed the NSX, and that's...
There was some good pictures there, weren't there? NSX and...
Feels like sort of a Netflix documentary or something. Tell me about the murder.
So this then started our Autosport revolution, really. Like, we ended up then going to Autosport religiously every single January for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Really
fast. One lap, it wasn't. Did it, span at probably 120 mile an hour, went into the wall backwards and was concussed. And
back wheel was all hanging out and everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, so...
Most car ideas, like new race car ideas, were born out of like the Friday night drinking session, weren't they?
Yeah, drunken chat. So then later this year we went to SEMA, didn't we?
First trip to SEMA, back to California.
So at this point the dollar, I think the dollar was like $2 to the pound. It was something crazy. Things were cheap in America still. And we walk around SEMA, going to all of these brands that we wanted.
Energy suspension and...
DC Sports.
Yeah, there was a
loads
ton
of
brands.
them. All
Skunk
of
2 was obviously the one.
They weren't there though, were they?
No.
It was all of the big brands that we wanted. And we went to every brand and said, this is who we are. We turn over £1 million, we're doing great, we're growing the business, we're really enthusiastic, we'd like to sell your parts. No, all of them, no chance.
We've got a distributor, we're already selling to the UK.
Yeah.
It was actually mainly Funky Power, wasn't it, at the time?
That had everything locked down,
Yeah.
So it was all quite deflating really, because we'd gone there thinking that we were going to be able to grow the business and get these new brands, and we couldn't. Yeah, so whilst we were there, I emailed Tony Shagday, a guy at Skunk 2 that I'd spoke to a few times, and said, we're at SEMA, can we come and see you? And he's like, yeah, of course you can. So we hired a car, didn't we, and drove down to Norco in California, which was like a 3-hour drive. We were sick of walking around the show getting rejections, so we thought, sod the show, let's drive down there. So we drove down there, sat in the meeting room.
Skunk 2 was busy at that point.
It was a big thing. It was the big thing.
It was huge.
Said to them, look, we want to become your distributor. And they were like, right, what do you want to do? So we set out a plan, and they were like, let's go for it, let's give it a try.
We obviously had quite a good way in, didn't we? You know, Civic Cup was semi-established with our part supply, so we were able to tell them that, you know, we're going to be able to put Skunk 2 exhausts on all these cars, you know, various camber products and stuff like that. So we had a reason for them to want us, really.
So yeah, they agreed. Yeah, Tony Shagday was brilliant, setting it all up, and then it just rolled, didn't it? And pretty quickly we were doing $500,000 worth of Skunk 2 turnover within a year or two. Like it grew, and it was great business. Because we then got a brand that we were distributing, it meant that we could go to other brands and say, look, we're the European distributor of Skunk 2. Can we be your distributor? So we've now got a member of staff called Oliver Owen. We'd had websites built by other people, hadn't we? But we knew that magazines were a huge part of advertising for us. So much so that I think we were spending £500 a month with Banzai and Jack Performance.
Back cover, inside back cover.
And then making our own website and having a presence, as well as photoing all the parts. We always had a photo studio, didn't we?
Yeah, even now we still see a lot of value in that.
So yeah, 2014 we first brought all this in-house. Before that we'd used companies around Stoke to make these websites, but we were now e-commerce website, was in-house, we kept it fresh, constant new banners and designs and everything. That was all kind of the start of almost the social media for us, really, wasn't it? That became what we are now with doing all of the marketing campaigns we do. We've now decided that we need to move units again. So the first 3 that we'd rented, hadn't we? And we were desperate to get on the property ladder.
Just made sense, didn't it? Like the other option of spending £1,500 a month wasn't on rent.
Yeah,
and it just seemed
that
like
would
dead
pay a
money.
mortgage.
Yeah.
So yeah, we bought this first unit for about 200 grand, which meant that the mortgage payments were the same as our rent. which obviously was easily achievable. But we had to move to Stoke because where we were in Stone, we couldn't find a unit for sale. It seemed that every unit there was owned by a pension company or whatever else. So yeah, we moved to this unit in Stoke, didn't we?
So here we are.
Back in the ST3.
Can we pop her head in? This was our first unit, well, a unit about 11 years ago. Right. So this is our 4th unit. We're back in Stoke-on-Trent now. We've moved here because we wanted to buy somewhere. All of the units we had previously were all units that we were renting, but obviously, as you all know, yeah, renting's kind of wasting money, so we wanted to get a mortgage and get on the property ladder. So we found this place. A little bit random, hardly any parking out the front, and the floors were all wood, which was a bit strange, but this section we partitioned off. We used this as the workshop where we kept our cars. We built our first race car in here, first EP3 in here, when Liam was working for us. And then through there, it was full of racking, all the parts. We did actually bring the CNC milling machine up here for a little bit, but then got rid of it fairly soon after.
Mike joined us at this period, didn't he? Obviously brought along loads of the technology that we used within the website and stuff.
Oliver Owen, yeah, we had a few, probably had 5 members of staff when we were here.
Big change in, within this unit, I think, as a company. It definitely, we kind of came of age. Turned into like quite a big deal at this point.
And we were in here all the way until we got to the current unit 10 years ago.
This is where
this is the parking.
NSX, and that's
There was some good pictures there,
good
weren't
pictures.
there? NSX and
But we used to get parking tickets for parking on the curb. Because if you look, double yellow lines, we got rid of them in the end. But see the double yellow lines continued all the way down. We got parking tickets for parking in our own parking space.
Parking on the curb outside Morpeth Street was always a good one. Traffic wardens would come up and put parking tickets on the cars for us. That was dead good.
We had, I think it must have been an Easter sale or a Black Friday sale, but the office was basically behind there and the printer. All the labels came up as one continuous roll, like the UPS printer. So we had it once where the labels went all through the office, out this door, around there and around there. It was like the biggest day ever, basically.
So it was 10,000 square foot, way bigger than where we'd been. By this point, we didn't need any space for cars. We just needed to start getting it filled with racking because that's what we were doing. And then we had a small area for the race cars. I then decided I wanted to get into an older Civic. Obviously, grass is greener. These guys with these EGs, EKs were flying around. I thought I'd want to be part of that. And also, from our roots, CRXs were our history, so I wanted to get CRX. So I built a CRX.
And Luke thought, let's be different and enter a CRX. So we entered like an original flatback CRX.
So it was a VT, put a B16A2 in it because that was the engine for Civic Cup. Obviously now we're Skunk 2 dealers, I've put all of the Skunk 2 parts on it. It was a great car, great fun. So that was then for that season of racing.
You had a bit of an incident with that, didn't you? At a Jap Fest.
The one at Donington.
The one at Donington, yeah. They used to do a Jap Fest at
so
Donington.
we did a car show at Donington and I was flying around.
Started spitting though, didn't it?
Yeah, and went down Craners, went on the grass and then went in the wall. So that was quite embarrassing.
Had to drag it back to like a massive paddock full of, people that were just at the show and it was, pretty embarrassing. But.
Yeah, so a car show and a race car crashes, so yeah, not ideal, but there you go, one of those things. Bought another lorry, so we've now upgraded. This is now a Wolverton's lorry, so one of our good friends, Dave Jenkins, races lorries and also works on lorries, so he found this lorry for me cheap. So I bought it with the plan to convert it into a car-carrying lorry. It wasn't going to carry parts. At this point, we'd stopped selling parts at shows because our range of parts had grown to thousands now. So yeah, converted it into that, to an actual race lorry. So it was just for carrying the car and for sleeping in, carried on racing. And then we went to Taiwan Amper show. And again, we went with the full-out attack. We want to find brands to distribute, didn't we?
We wanted a coilover brand, didn't we? I think that was the primary reason. We'd seen actually how well BC were doing.
We've been selling Racing Logic, hadn't we?
Yeah.
So we're a small brand called Racing Logic, an Australian guy. They were made in Taiwan. And we were doing 100 sets a year or something. It wasn't a lot, but it was still something.
Yeah.
Only for standard double arm type cars, EGs, EKs, those kind of units. So we went to try and find some brands to distribute. Anyway, we turned up at the Yellow Speed stand and we said, like, it looked great, price was good.
They were doing motorsport themselves in Taiwan.
Yeah, Max, the owner, raced himself.
On the EP3 as well, so they knew that platform inside out, which obviously tied in well with Civic Cup.
But they were desperate to try and get us to do our own brand to start with, I think.
Yeah.
They were just trying to push that, and we were like, no, I think we want a brand. We called them out and we said, right, we want to go to the factory. And they were like, no, we can't go to the factory. The factory's 3 hours away. We can't go to the factory. When do you go home? we're going on Saturday. Well, the show's until Saturday. We don't want to go to the factory. And no. So anyway, we said to look, we need to go to the factory to make sure that you are what you say you are and to give us some confidence, because if this is going to work, we need to know who you are. We're not going to get on another flight to Taiwan to do that. So Jennifer, the sales girl, said, right, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m, we'll get in a train and we'll go to the factory. So we got on this bullet train and off we went to the factory, and it was a factory. It was its own factory making all of its own parts. Then it was great to see, wasn't it? It was exactly what we were hoping, because it was a brand that looked good, it was up and coming. Yeah, the owner was into motorsport. They were good to talk to. They understood what we wanted.
They were young themselves, weren't they? Like quite a young company. They'd been going 3 years probably at this point.
Yeah, and Max is the same age as us,
Yeah.
so it all works really well. So we went back to the show, had another meeting, and said, right, this looks great. Let's go with it. I think we imported 60 coilovers to start with, didn't we? 1 pallet or a couple of pallets, whatever it was. Yeah, that was the start of that.
Yeah.
So we then put Yellow Speed into Civic Cup, so it then became the controlled damper, and it has been ever since. So the EP3s in Civic Cup are on Yellow Speed, and they've tried various other brands, but they always come back to Yellow Speed because this started, as we're saying, 12 years ago. The dampers have evolved that much over the years by the guys over there that are into racing. They've become the best dampers for Yellow Speed. So much so that Nitrons and all the other brands that people try, they always end up coming back to Yellow Speed because they're just so good for what they do, for sprint racing on an EP3. That was then another brand that we were then distributing. So whilst we were there, we met Stephen from MFactory, didn't we? And we managed to negotiate that we'd become the European distributor for MFactory. We've been selling it for a while. Great product, again, lifetime warranty, just been working perfectly. So we thought we want to actually get behind this.
With MFactory came Synchrotech as well, because they were very closely working together in the US.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had synchros, final drives, diffs, and again, everything was going into Civic Cup, which gave the brand credibility, and gave us credibility as suppliers.
So now we're doing all these brands that we wanted to do. We've still got a gap in the clutch brand. Obviously, we've been doing F1 racing, but we know that the amount of F1 racing clutches we're doing, we're starting to be a bit of a thorn in the side for the big brands that don't want us to be doing this. So a guy called Mike Marchant from Competition Clutch came to us and asking us what they need to do to be able to get our market. So we explained to them what they needed to do. They needed to make this clutch that was an uprated clutch, but still the same price as an OEM clutch and everything else. Anyway, they weren't willing to do it. And then not long after that, Mike came to us and said, I no longer work for Competition Clutch. Do you want to make your own clutch brand? So we were like, well, yeah, let's do it. So he obviously told us that he knew everything about clutches. He'd been in the clutch industry for years. It was a bit of a leap of faith again, wasn't it? Because he was an older guy. He was probably in his 50s at this point. He asked if his wife could have a job at the same time, being our bookkeeper.
Sounds like a bit of a scam at the time, looking back, doesn't it? But it wasn't.
Yeah, he was American, and it was all a little bit like, yeah. And then he said how much he wanted to be paid. He wanted to be paid as a contractor, and it was like $4,000 a month or something. Like it was some wild. He wanted to be earning more than we were earning. We thought it's a contracting job. It's a short-term thing. It'll work.
Supposedly loads of money in it, wasn't there? That was the big draw.
We started doing this clutch brand, but this dragged on and on and on, didn't it? And because he was trying to find suppliers in loads of different aspects to it, all going on, and it just dragged on and on and on. But what it did mean, because he came from bigger businesses, he worked at B&M Shifters, K&N, Greenfield, all sorts of big companies, and his wife had been working at Vodafone. They actually bought some big company ideas. Bearing in mind,
we'd never actually worked anywhere.
We'd never worked anywhere. I worked in a pub.
I'd worked at Bargain Booze.
We worked at a pie factory when we were students to be able to buy wheels for our car for 3 weeks during some holidays. Like, we just never worked anywhere proper. They were expensive to have these guys there, but they were bringing these big company ideas that actually, down the line, have made a huge difference, haven't they? Had a big impact on us. However, it turned out that this clutch brand didn't work. We were 300 grand deep at this point. All these clutches were coming over from China. We were putting them in Civic Cup cars and they were exploding. Exploding so much so that they were smashing through the bell housings and coming out of the side of cars, and it was horrific. They all went in the skip, didn't they? Mm. And that was the end.
Yeah, big learning curve, but actually looking back, it's, you'd do it all again because of the experience that...
Yeah, at the time, we'd lost 300 grand. It was like, this is really painful, but it was a big influential part of us, wasn't it? Mm. But obviously Mike had realised by this point that it wasn't to be. The clutches were failing. He was trying to find a solution, but there wasn't really one. It was just bad manufacturing. they'd actually, on lots of them, they balanced them by drilling through the sides, and it was just a mess. So we gave up on that. This was the start of RPC. We then got our RPC clutches made by the people that were making clutches in America. I can't remember the name of the brand, but it was a brand that was making clutches in America, so we were then buying a reliable clutch that then worked again. So we're back in business with RPC, so another brand of ours, as well as still selling the F1 Racing and Exedi. Now we're becoming this distributor of all these bigger brands. We need to do Autosport. Autosport's the biggest show in Europe at the time for our industry. The first year we go just as Yellow Speed. 3x3 booth, all the Yellow Speed coilovers on display.
We were opposite Owens, weren't we?
Yeah, yeah, it was quite funny. We were, right opposite Owens. But this is the time when Autosport was huge. All the tyre manufacturers had big displays. Yeah, my FN2 was on the Nankang stand.
We had Yellow Speed on all the drift cars from Matt Stevenson, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we had them on Matt's...
Slide Sports.
Slide Sports, yeah.
Yeah, at the time we thought that drifting was going to be a good avenue for selling coilovers. It was kind of the up-and-coming thing.
It was a wild party, wasn't it? Do you remember that party?
Yeah, the drifters had a party in Solihull.
With Maxis.
Yeah.
And there was just vodka. There was vodka flying everywhere.
Yeah. So this then started our Autosport revolution, really. Like, we ended up then going to Autosport religiously every single January for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Huge expense compared to the other shows that we've been going to, but we kind of always saw that it was such a big thing, and it meant that, various people would come and see us because we were at Autosport. Yeah, we had lots of different new suppliers coming to us saying, oh, you're doing great, do you want to sell our parts, and so on. So it worked really well, didn't it, for networking, as well as displaying what we did. Sadly now, obviously, Autosport's gone, but it was great while it lasted. As I just said, my FN2 was on show at Autosport. After the CRX, I had an FN2 race car for Civic Cup. Again, to try and keep things going modern, pushing new cars into Civic Cup, it kind of made sense, didn't it? You had an FN2 as a road car.
Yeah, BBS LM's on that one.
Yeah.
This is...
That's before then.
That's before that. This is when we were at Stone, this is.
But anyway, so Johnny had an FN2 road car, and we just thought, because it was the new Civic, we needed to get them into Civic Cup. So I had one, Oliver Barsby had one, there were a couple around. Mine was fairly reliable, some of the others weren't. They kept on having problems with throttle bodies and things, and it turned out that it wasn't really a competitive car. The fact it had a rear beam, they didn't handle as well, the gear ratios didn't work quite as well. Even though they were shorter, they weren't as good on certain circuits. So FN2s pretty much haven't been competitive in Civic Cup until last year, where they've changed the regs to make them more competitive. So that was the FN2, and then we thought we'd launch another website, Tegiwa Euro. We were very much focused on imports, weren't we? We were Tegiwa Imports. That was the website, tegiwaimports.com, and it was just all about Japanese cars. We knew that the majority of modified cars in the UK and Europe were European cars, so we rebranded as Tegiwa Euro, branded it blue instead of red, decided to get into BMW racing.
With this came Apex, didn't it?
Yeah. We created a championship called M3 Cup, which, looking back, is probably one of the coolest single mate championships in the country ever, because it was just all E46 M3s.
Using E46 M3s sort of before they were silly money. That was part of the reason that it just doesn't really exist anymore, because the cars are too much money. But
the sound of them was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just...
Yeah, so they all had Yellow Speeds on. They all had, to start with, Nankang tyres. Loads of the parts that we were selling were on these cars. At one point, I think there was 28 cars on the grid. It was absolutely crazy. And like you said, they sounded wild, didn't they?
Yeah.
We grew that and kept on using that as a way of promoting Tegiwa Euro.
We actually bought a couple of cars off Aaron Reeve, didn't we?
Yeah.
Who, he's a dealer of ours now. It's, funny how long these things go back.
We upgraded a lorry, so we've now got a full Arctic, because we've got two M3s, we've got my car and a rental car. And in this picture's a DC2 that we're building to try and keep the Honda roots going. And yeah, M3 Cup went wild for years. It was brilliant. We got Apex wheels off the back of that.
Yeah, because we'd obviously built this credibility with BMWs. Apex was the go-to brand for BMW wheels. So yeah, they saw us as probably their best avenue to sell wheels in the UK.
But then these cars started going up and up in value, which meant couldn't build race cars as much, and the kind of interest
there was a little bit of a downturn in the market as well, wasn't there? I think budget series started coming out, like C1s, didn't they, and things like that. And I don't know, there was a bit of a pinch with the higher end club motorsport.
These were obviously one of the most expensive club racing championships to do, weren't they? So I then decided to build an E92 M3. So this was kind of two reasons really. I didn't, at the time, like I said, we had a rental car, and I didn't like racing against a customer. And then also, it was a way of doing something different, something new. As you can tell by now, I like building race cars. So another race car, I bought it from Copart or from somewhere, didn't I? I had a front end damage, manual, E92
It's a weird
M3.
colour, wasn't it? It was like a...
No, it was black.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did it have a wrap on it? Like an orange wrap?
Oh,
or
it did,
something?
yeah. Yeah, you're right. Peeled that off pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I had to buy a whole new front end for it. So in the end, I bought carbon headlight blanks, carbon bonnet, all that kind of stuff, because it was cheaper than the genuine. Built an E92 M3. Dave Whitmore built one at the same time, with the hope that we were going to potentially create a new championship, but they also doubled up as an endurance car.
Yeah, David done M3 Cup with you for a number of years, hasn't he?
Yeah. He became a customer as well
Yeah.
in M3 Cup. They actually just became an endurance car in the end. I raced a couple of BMW car club races and then some club enduros. In the end, I did a round at Silverstone Club Enduro, 2-hour club enduro on my own, one club enduro.
That was another good crack.
Oh yeah, so this is a good story. So on the Friday, we were testing, going down the back straight at Silverstone. It was wet and I'd been ballistic all day. Driving right around the outside of Hangar, really fast. One lap, it wasn't. Did it, span, at probably 120 mile an hour, went into the wall backwards and was concussed. And
Back wheel was all hanging out and everything, wasn't it?
yeah, so I remember getting out of the car, looking at it was all smashed, but knowing the pit lane entry was just there. So I got back in the car, dragged it back to the pits, got out of the car, and all the guys from Yellow Speed were over because they were renting one of the M3 Cup cars. I remember getting out of the car and saying to Johnny, why are all the Yellow Speed guys here? And I was concussed. I didn't actually realise what was going on until a couple of hours later. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have raced, but I managed to convince the guys to get it fixed up. Someone went off and collected some parts from local breakers. We then got some red tape to tape up the lights and got it all working. And then the following day, I went out and won the race.
I think the toe was all over the place, wasn't it? We couldn't actually get the
Couldn't
toe.
get it straight,
Couldn't
no.
get it straight, no.
Firstly, congratulations. 2 hours behind the wheel here at Silverstone. Couldn't have won not only a class win, but win overall. Well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was brilliant fun. My first club enduro race, and yeah, first race for my car, first race for me, doing it all myself, and yeah, couldn't have asked for a better result.
Yeah, and your car that came second behind you, you built it as well, Darren Ball's BMW.
Yeah, it's quite rewarding, really. I know he's done a lot of club enduros and not had so much success, but yeah, the fact that two cars TI Motorsport have built, first, second, brilliant result.
So got the car back, fixed it up. I actually put it for sale at this point because we'd already made a pipe dream of building an M4 for a club enduro car, and it sold straight away whilst I was on holiday, so that was pretty crazy. So that car's gone.
Most car ideas, like new race car ideas, were born out of like the Friday night drinking session, weren't they?
Yeah, drunken chat. So we've now started to employ more and more staff, haven't we? We've actually got Mike, who's still with us now, that we employed to be our web designer. But
Whereabouts here?
Yeah. Just gonna say action.
Action. Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm the web developer here at Tegiwa. I started in 2014, 15th of December to be exact.
We also had Chris at the time.
yeah, Fordy and Chris were in the warehouse.
You can clap your own clapper.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you just clap it and say action.
never used one of these.
Right.
Action.
Good work.
Was that good? Is this going now? Is this the
yeah,
actual
yeah,
thing?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Feels like sort of a Netflix documentary or something. Tell me about the murder. So my name's Chris and I run the eBay department.
So when did you start at Tegiwa?
2014. I remember going for the interview and thinking, it's really weird going down this little side street in Longton because everywhere else in Longton just full of transit vans covered in rust, and there's all of these Type Rs and cool Japanese cars just tucked away.
But also, more than that, like he's the technical guy, isn't he? So we started to work out stock controls to link the website into things.
Yeah, order management. I think before Mike, we were actually, getting an order onto the website, printing it off, and then going out and checking to see if we've got it in stock.
Yeah, so believe it or not, when I first started, when orders were printed, you had to sort of type the address in manually.
Yeah, it was a lot more archaic, I'd say. It was like, I think Matt would type out the orders onto little labels.
You'd then have a big, massive reel of labels printed out in the morning first thing.
We'd have to go and pick them from memory.
And then literally the items just got wrote on There was no stock management, so we'd never know exact stock levels.
And obviously we'd have to tell Matt if something ran out of stock. A lot more kind of relying on us to get it right, which is quite dangerous.
Really manual and really basic, to be honest with you. So then, yeah, we took on Limworks at the time, and then that was a massive step up for us. So we had inventory management, purchase order management, so we actually knew what was coming in properly on a system rather than it just being a piece of paper on a desk.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, obviously we've got all the stock system that tells exactly where the parts are, and but it used to rely on Matt quite heavily.
Matt evolved into being front of house really, wasn't he?
Yeah.
As well as mechanic on the cars.
Yeah. So Mike completely changed
All of that.
all the way we were working.
Yeah.
And before that, it was Matt's job, and it was a nightmare, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're quite dynamic, aren't we? So we'll pick up different jobs as we go along. Someone will become good at something, and then that becomes their job. Sort of like, when someone asks you to make a cup of tea and you make it badly, you won't be asked to do a job again. But if you make it really good, they're going to ask you to make them a brew again. Yeah, so when I actually first started at Tegiwa, I wasn't a web designer developer. I actually started as just office admin, and then it just sort of progressed. The web developer at the time, when he left, and then I just sort of picked it up because I'd done bits and bobs in the past. I had quite a good computer knowledge, basic website stuff, and it just went from there really. So I self-taught myself all of the Magento platform because that's what we were using at the time. We're using Shopify now, as you know. But yeah, it's a mad spiral. I feel like I started about a year ago, but I've actually been here for coming up to 12 years now.
And we still had the CNC machine going at this point. So we'd moved the CNC machine from our unit in Stone up to the unit in Stoke. But this was starting to cause problems because we didn't know how to operate it ourselves, and the operators that we had kept on crashing it, causing us huge expense. It was going to go either way. We were either going to have to go all out on CNC machines and get 3 or 4 of them and employ proper people to run them, or can it. Yeah. So we canned it, didn't we? We moved our work that we were doing in-house back to a place in Stone that was making some stuff for us, and then obviously getting more and more parts imported. EU referendum was just about to happen. We were obviously desperate for it to be a Remain. We were selling loads to Europe at this point, so much so that almost as much to Europe as to the UK. We had some big dealers in Europe and they were taking pallets of parts at a time. So it was really good for us, and we knew that if we split from the EU, it was going to be hard work. Anyway, the votes came in, and the UK had been convinced that it was a good thing to leave. Obviously, been sold this stupid pipe dream that was not true at all. Anyway, we were leaving, which meant that, again, we had a huge hurdle to overcome.
It affected the FX rates, didn't it? The currency rates were, the actual referendum occurred in 2016, and it tanked the market, basically.
Yeah.
So, stuff was more costly to import. And then it was 4 years of uncertainty until it actually really impacted the business massively.
But by this point, we'd grown the European business to be the same size as the UK business. It was huge. Okay, so we've now got to 2016, outgrown our unit, so found a new unit, but it was an absolute fortune. Like I said before, we bought our old unit for 200 grand. It was probably worth 300 at best. Found a new place that was 800 grand.
No.
It was.
What was it?
It was 800 grand.
Asking price?
Yeah, we just can't afford it. It's exactly what we need. It's 100 metres from our old place, but it's an absolute fortune. We knew it had been empty for 3 years, and the way warehouses work is that you still have to pay rates on empty units, so we knew that it was costing them a fortune. It's an old Ainsley China building, so Ainsley China disappeared ages ago, and it was just costing the company a fortune. So we went in low, didn't we? Did we get it for 400?
Yeah, 380-ish, I think it was.
Yeah, we just told them this is all we can afford, this is what we can afford, we'll buy it. And they're like, no. Kept on pushing us back, and then agreed with it.
We took out a 20-year mortgage at this point, didn't we?
So this is 2016, 10 years of Tegiwa, 10 members of staff, turnover £4 million. Everything's great, but we're about to do a massive hurdle because we've taken this huge building that's twice the price of ours, another big mortgage that we're trying to get away from. And then we had to spend about 100 grand on doing it up, building an office, everything else.
When we moved into this place, it was like, wow, Tegiwa's made it type of thing. And the workshop has changed quite a bit. The offices have changed. We're an actual company now, like an actual professional company, where before We was obviously a professional company, but we was just kind of like winging it. But yeah, I think we know what we're doing now. When we moved into this place, I tried to climb up onto the top tier of the mezzanine and ended up falling off and winding myself, and there's a picture of that somewhere.
So yeah, so that's when obviously it was all still in construction. There was the death stairs there. He bet that he could climb up there, and he made it about 2/3 of the way up, and then fell flat on his back, winded himself, and we thought we might have to take him to hospital, but he was all right. He was all right.
We moved from 10,000 square foot to 28,000 square foot. It was wild. It was, you'd walk around it and it was like, this could be a go-kart track as well as a warehouse.
Yeah, when we got it, it felt huge.
The size of this place when we first took a look inside the warehouse, for example, the difference in comparison to Morpeth Street was like,
We're walking around the warehouse, like,
how are we ever going to fill all this space? And now look at it, like
pretty much at capacity now, really.
We're going into the workshop now to use space because we're running out of space in the warehouse. So yeah, to move from Morpeth Street to here and to get to where we are now with how busy we are and how much stock we've got.
I remember Luke had a massive flatbed lorry that he rented, and we drove loads of stock up with that. Drove the forklift up, which was pretty funny, driving it up that hill. Yeah, it felt ridiculously big at first, but now it's just, yeah, it's full pretty much. We've got that much stock now, it's crazy. I wouldn't like to do the same move now.
So we decided to set up TI Motorsport.
This building was basically too big for Tegiwa as it was. We weren't going to fill it, so we ended up opening a service garage next door, which was owned by Luke, Johnny and me, 3 ways. Well, it was owned by Tegiwa, 2/3 of it, and then I owned 1/3 of it. And we had a mechanic, Rob.
We thought it was a great idea at the time. It was a workshop where we could fit all the parts we've got on the shelf.
Yeah, bring everything all under one roof, offer the full service.
We gave it a go. It didn't quite work out, but we did achieve quite a lot along the way, especially with racing.
It was hard work, wasn't it? We had 2 mechanics. We had Rob and Jake, and an apprentice at one point. But it was just hard work, and I was spending lots of my time trying to run it when the main business is what I should have been running. And
we realised that you can only sell so many hours in a day with the workshop, whereas, you know, we can be selling parts through the night while we're asleep, and, you know.
Yeah, we wanted to get back to our core of selling boxes of parts. The workshop then just became a fun shed, really. It was decided that we'd keep the dyno for R&D work, keep the ramps for R&D work, as well as running our own race cars and fitting sample parts and whatever else. So that's kind of what happened to the workshop. But obviously we had a huge car park as well, so you then decided...
We kind of created like a hub, hadn't we, in Stoke? You know, we had Motion Motorsport, we had Airy Motorsport, we had a load of local guys that were, you know, all into Hondas, and they were called the VTEC Junkies. So yeah, they approached us and said, can we have a monthly meet at your place? And obviously we did, and they lasted for about 3 or 4 years, and still see a lot of the guys now. They come to some of the meets that we have, Cars and Coffee. But yeah, it was a good time.
So that concludes part 3 of the 20 years of Tegiwa series. We're now over halfway through. Make sure you tune in to episode 4 as we talk about when I arrived, why we started putting Haribos in your order, we started building Suki, competed in British GT, and Tegiwa caught fire. So make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.